Hey, welcome. Have you ever felt stuck in a habit you really want to change? Anything from endlessly scrolling on your phone to grabbing junk food when you're stressed? Well, this explainer is for you. And look, this isn't about fighting yourself or using some kind of brute force willpower. Instead, we're going to calmly look at the system that's running these habits and find the practical levers we can pull to change it for good.
Okay, let's kick things off with a really foundational idea, one that can completely shift how you see things. The first thing we've got to get is this. Those compulsive habits we want to break, they're almost never about finding real pleasure. More often than not, they're about escaping an uncomfortable feeling. Just a quick break from boredom or stress or loneliness. Just realizing that, well, that's the real first step.
And, this whole escape mechanism, it runs on a surprisingly predictable track. We can call it the addiction loop. It's a pattern that shows up everywhere. It all kicks off with a trigger, which then sparks an emotion. That feeling creates a craving for some kind of escape, which leads you to the action. Sure, you get a moment of temporary relief, but it's almost always followed by guilt, which, ironically, can become the trigger for the whole loop to start over again.
Okay, so here's our game plan for this explainer. First, we'll make sure we really understand this loop. Then, we'll dive into the foundation, which is all about seeing your own patterns clearly. After that, we'll get into an action plan based on redirection. We'll also cover some super practical tools for when things get tough. And finally, we'll look at the biggest lever for change of all, your identity.
All right, first up, the foundation. See clearly. The subtitle here really says it all. You cannot fix what you do not observe. And honestly, this is probably the most important part of the entire process. Why? Because so often we try to fight the final action without ever stopping to understand what kicked it all off in the first place.
So, this is the big question you have to ask yourself. Before you even worry about the habit, you've got to look underneath. When that urge hits, what are you actually feeling? Is it that 3 p.m. boredom kicking in at your desk? Is it the wave of stress after a tough meeting? Or maybe it's that little pang of loneliness late at night. See, the craving is just the smoke signal for the emotional fire.
So how do you find that answer? Well, you've got to turn that chaotic feeling into a clear pattern. You basically become a detective of your own mind. It's simple, really. Just start noticing a few things when the urge strikes. What time is it? What's your mood like? Where are you? And what just happened? This simple act of tracking helps you see the triggers coming, long before they take over.
Now this right here is a huge mental shift. The old way is to fight the feeling, to tell yourself, I shouldn't feel stressed, or I shouldn't be bored. But that's like trying to hold a beach ball underwater, right? It just builds pressure. The new thought, I am feeling this, is about observing without judging. You just acknowledge it. And when you do that, the feeling can pass like a cloud instead of building up into a storm.
Okay, so once you start observing, you're ready for the next step, our action plan. The key idea here is to redirect, not to fight. Really listen to those words. We're not declaring war on ourselves. We're just guiding that energy somewhere else.
And it kicks off with something so simple it almost sounds silly. The second you feel that urge, just stand up. That's it. Think about it. So many of our unwanted habits happen when we're sitting down, stuck in a state of physical inertia. Just the simple physical act of standing breaks that state. It's the first, most powerful circuit breaker you have.
And right on the heels of that, the next step is to change your environment. Get up and walk into another room. Step outside for 30 seconds. Your old habit lives in a very specific context, a certain chair, a particular room. By moving, you're literally stepping out of its territory. And here's the core principle that ties those last 2 points together. A change in your physical state directly creates a change in your mental state. Movement is the simplest, fastest way there is to interrupt the mental pattern of a craving. It's that direct.
Okay, so we've handled the physical part. Now we need to update the story our brain is telling itself. Our brains are reward-seeking machines, right? The old story tells it, hey, this habit gives me relief. We have to consciously write a new story, one that connects the action to its real long-term cost. This simple reframe starts to weaken the perceived reward, and it literally begins to rewire your brain.
Man, this is such a powerful way to think about it. That energy behind a craving, that restlessness, that need for something, it isn't bad. It's just unfocused energy. The problem isn't the energy itself, it's where it's pointed. So instead of trying to crush it, you just give it a new, positive job to do. You elevate it.
All right, let's get real practical. Section 3, Tools for Tough Moments. Because let's be honest,
Theory is one thing, but what do you do when your willpower feels like it's at zero and that urge is screaming at you? These are the tools for those moments.
First tool in the toolbox, the 10-minute rule. And it's so simple, it's brilliant. You don't tell yourself, I can never do this again. That's way too overwhelming. You just tell yourself, I'll wait 10 minutes. And here's why it works. The neurochemicals in your brain driving that intense craving actually have a pretty short half-life. Your brain literally can't maintain that peak intensity for very long. 10 minutes is often all it takes to get to the other side of that wave.
This next idea is absolutely crucial. Your environment beats your motivation every single time. Motivation comes and goes, but a well-designed environment is working for you 24/7. Think of it this way. Trying to avoid cookies that are sitting on your kitchen counter is a constant, draining battle of willpower. But simply not having cookies in the house? That's a single, one-time decision. You structure your world to support your goals so you don't have to constantly test your willpower.
Okay, let's talk about relapse. Because sooner or later, you might slip up. And how you think about that moment changes everything. A relapse does not mean you're broken or that you're a failure. It is not a moral verdict on your character. It's just data. That's it. It just means the old neural pathway is still there and needs a little more time to weaken, while your new one needs more time to get stronger.
And that leads us perfectly into our final section, which is really the deepest part of all this work, the final shift to identity. This goes beyond just changing a behavior. This is about changing who you see yourself becoming.
Okay, this is the absolute key to making it all stick. The phrase, I am addicted, that's a fixed identity. It's a label, it's a box, it keeps you right where you are. But saying, I am becoming disciplined, well, that's a direction. That's a journey. Every time you redirect an urge, you're casting a vote for that future self, making that new identity stronger and more real than the old one.
And I love this final thought. It's the perfect way to frame this whole thing. An urge, no matter how powerful it feels in the moment, is a temporary event. It's just a wave passing on the surface. It is not you. You are the vast, deep ocean underneath it all. So to bring it all home, the path to mastery really boils down to these 4 practical steps. First, observe the pattern without any judgment. Second, redirect the impulse with some kind of movement. Third, reframe the story you're telling yourself about it. And finally, channel that underlying energy toward a better purpose. So, the only question left is, what's the first small pattern you're ready to start observing?